have this for later.
Okay, recording. We start introducing Ken Close, who's here today to talk with us about Healy. You know, the magic is that is Healy, but also what that means in terms of sort of understanding that the experience to me is very much the easiest way to express it is magic. But of course, there's science here, and it's really beautiful science, and I think it's evolutionary science. Like, this is where we are going as humans, is into a deeper understanding of this. So thank you, Ken, for coming to share your wisdom with us today.
I totally agree. And thank you for having me. I'm honored to share some time and space with you guys. Hopefully I can bring some benefit to the table and give you some of my background as to the evolution, not just for me, but I think humanity in general, including how we're going to move into the future with energy being the answer to many problems and issues in our health and even in our culture. I started with Healy when it was before it was available in the United States, and so I was kind of in the dark. But my background, as Jessica said, I am an engineer in electronics. Actually, electrical engineer is one, electronics engineer is a different, but we still love each other. And so my background is electronics engineering, so it is in the technical world of things. So everything digital, everything logic, everything in this very, very tiny, low power, and it's literally at the electron flow. So during engineering school, I studied wave theory, and wave theory is the understanding and the knowing of frequency. And essentially how does it get from point A to point B? How does information move around within space? And so it was quite interesting when I was introduced through an Australian portal around this technology. But a year prior to being introduced to this technology, I was in a Dr. Joe event, and I've been doing this for 10 years with him, many live events. I was in a 4-hour pineal gland meditation, and this entire technology came to me. And I was like, you've probably heard people say, man, I manifested this, I created this, right? And that's perfect, because when our mind is ready, something will appear. And this is exactly what happened. But the entire technology came to me as an engineer. I understood all this concept, and I thought, wow, I might need to invent this. I told an Australian friend of mine about it, and he's like, yeah, you got to invent this. This is amazing. We need this in our world. And it literally was around how we could read the energetic signatures of the body and then interface with it and shift and change disorders into coherence and order. And it even had a watch. There was even a watch that I had on in my meditation that I was using. So I talked to my Australian friend. Fast forward a year from that moment, I did nothing. I mean, you guys have thought of something and didn't invent it, but it wound up in our world. So I did nothing, and he circles back to me and says, hey, remember that technology you were telling me about a year ago? I said, yeah. He goes, a quantum physicist / monk just invented it. I'm like, no way. And he goes, hey, you want to introduce it in the United States? I'm like, uh-huh. So there's the history of how I got started. I didn't even have product, but I knew how it worked, and I was able to start actually building a business because I knew, and I had such an understanding of technology without an experience. I mean, I had an experience in my mind, but without one in the three-dimensional space. And I was able to explain it. I didn't really have to explain it. The moment I believed in it, that energy propagated out into the world, and everyone else that knew me, liked me, trusted me, was on board. So this, I think, was my beginning in the business. In the world of Healy in the United States, there was not hardly any resources. And so I dove in. At that time, we had a manager for the United States, and I contacted him right away. I said, look, we got to do something. We got to get some information out, and let me help you. And so I wound up one of 3 of the mastermind groups that was created. Myself, Doc Steve, Terry Perez, we're still in the mix of that. And eventually wound up on the board for US Healy. So that's kind of the background of how I got started. But let me tell you, I want to go into what's Healy? What exactly is Healy? What's it doing when we are using this little device and connecting it to our body? So in the world of epigenetics, let me tell you, what does epigenetics mean? Epi means essentially outside or above. Genetics meaning the genetic codes or the signaling structures that build the cells. So if we're looking at epigenetics, the two is it's outside of the genetic code, above and beyond the coding systems itself. And understand that there's an infinite amount of information within the genetic codes. Infinite. Every one of us possess the possibility for any disease, disorder, harmony, abundance. Everything is built within the genetic codes. And all it needs is a certain energy to propagate that signal into form, aka body, into action, aka protein expression. So if that being true, and we simply say, okay, this genetic code is infinite in possibilities, there's only actually it's less than 3%. We'll go with 3, round it up. 3% of the genetic code says it's going to be a bone cell, a skin cell, a muscle cell. 3%. The other 97% is an adaptive coding system that's reading the environment to say what quality and what kind. In other words, allowing the host, the body, the organism to adapt to its environment. This is what's allowed us to survive. This is why the human race is still here, is because we have this innate, beautiful ability to adapt. I mean, how many of you guys have moved from a tropical area to a desert area, or from a cold space to a warm space? How many of you have been from a chaos and disorder to order and harmony? The body adapts to whatever you go into, and it takes about 72 hours when it comes to climatizing. It takes a bit longer when it comes to emotional or traumatic experiences within the body. But still, 97% of that genetic code is adaptive. Reading what? Reading energy. It's reading energy. And energy is what influences that other genetic expression to decide what quality or what kind that cell is. And our bodies are turning over 800,000 cells per second. Think about that. And if you've been on any of my calls about this, you've probably heard me say this: 800,000 cells per second turning over in your body. You're not doing that. We're not doing that as a consciousness. It's just happening divinely, innately within this body. And these 800,000 cells are hungry, eager for information as to what to be, because they're brand new. What happens with a brand new baby? They're so aware and they're so alert and they're so curious, right? Same thing with these cells. They have a job to do. So 800,000 cells per second are being turned over. And now some of them are skin cells, some are bone cells, some are muscle cells, various types within the body. But still, that's kind of the overall sum of what's being shifted. So when 97% of the code is adaptive and it's reading its environment, and understand the external environment of the cell is the internal environment of you. And the internal you is guided by emotion, by thought, by energy. This is what's guiding the internal state. And I mean, just think about it. How many of you guys have gotten upset for some reason and the whole body goes into some kind of action, right? And I often ask my clients or people I'm working with, I said, you know what? I want you to describe an emotion as if I was an alien, and try this exercise with yourself or with anybody else. If I was an alien, I want you to describe what it feels like to be angry. What's it feel like? And people say, well, it's like when somebody cuts you off in traffic and you're like, no, that's an example. I said, I want you to know, tell me how it feels in your body. Well, it's like, you know, I get this perception. It's always about a likening to an experience. I'm not talking about that. What I'm saying is, what's it feel like in the body? Oh, well, my stomach gets tight. My face gets hot. I start to shake it. There, now we're getting somewhere. Now you're explaining what the body is going through. Now, are you doing that? Did you just learn how to be angry in that present moment? Or was this something innate in the body because of historical influence? You wrote some kind of You assign some kind of meaning to an experience, and now the body knows that as anger. And so all you need is an external trigger, external resource of some sort. Somebody cuts you off in traffic, you get a bad email, whatever, partner says something wrong. You suddenly, instantly, the body has a reaction. It seems like you're not doing this, right? It seems like the body just goes into action automatically, and that's not true. What happens is there's an interpretation from the senses, from the outside. You see it, bring it in. The mind puts meaning to it, a thought, an understanding, a belief, a perception. And then the body presents a peptide. Basically, it's a chemical expression or a signaling to the body. And the body just then gives you the feeling. And this is not wrong, because thought is to the brain as emotion is to the body. And the two enrich the experience of life. This is what the meaning of life is to have experience. So, but the interesting part of that is our genetic code, all 800,000 cells per second, is being influenced by that energy. When you become angry, it's now building 800,000 cells per second to prepare the host for the event. So now I'm not saying this is wrong. This is not wrong. It's just that this is the way it works. The problem is that refractory period, in other words, how long we remain angry. So how many seconds of 800,000 cells are being built upon this understanding, this energetic influence. Because after a while, we do it long enough, habitually, then we just become a body of an angry temperament, or of angry personality, or of some kind, or the opposite, joyous personality, right? This is just the way it works. And we aren't doing any of it. Essentially, the genetic expression, the creation of the cell structures, all we're doing is participating in an outside experience, so that and allowing the inside of us to adapt. So I always ask people, does your issues of yesterday belong in your tomorrow? And if the answer is no, then in this present moment, we have to say, I want to feel differently. I want to think differently. I want to change in one moment. I want to allow this information coming through my senses, what I see, what I feel, what I taste, what I hear, to have different meaning. Now, this takes work. It takes awareness. So here's where Healy comes in, folks. This is the coolest thing ever, because Healy gives these frequencies that we can put into our body, whether it be through the microcurrent. And I use the microcurrent often. I'm connected right now. And I use the microcurrent often because the microcurrent itself has been known since the 20s, the 1920s, to increase ATP production by up to 500%, to increase protein synthesis by up to 70%, and increase amino acid transport by up to 40%, just with microcurrent. Now, this is not new, but this is the brilliance that Marcus brought into the equation, because what he's done is he's taken the microcurrent. That's simply the carrier wave. I call it the pail, the bucket that carries the frequencies into the body. And the reason we have the ability to increase or decrease the amplitude of that frequency, or that current flow through the body, the reason we have the ability to increase it or decrease it is not to give you more effectiveness from the frequencies, but to get the information from point A to point B. That's really it, right? So people say, I'm going to crank it up. I'm going to get all kinds of advantage at 100%. And I'm like feeling all tingly, and I'm feeling, like out of control, and it's bothering me a little bit, maybe itchy and tingly and all that kind of stuff. Well, the problem is with that is the moment you put it up into the realm of awareness, okay, you put the energy, the frequency, or I should say the amplitude, the current flow up into the realm of awareness, where you're saying, ooh, I feel this tingly, ooh, now you're taking away the benefit to the cell structure, because this is a subtle subconscious influence. We don't want the cells to be alarmed. We don't want the body to be alerted. We don't want the awareness to pay attention to the implementation, because what you've all heard this, where we place our focus is where we place our energy, right? How many of you guys have smashed your finger with a hammer or dropped something on your foot and you just focus on the pain and it lasts forever? Well, I'm going to tell you something, 90 seconds, folks. The nervous system downregulates the pain receptor sites in 90 seconds so that it doesn't hurt so much. You keep your attention on it, you're faking it. You're just keeping it rolling, right? Ow, 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 ow. You know, it's like, okay, it seems like it lasts for days. Well, it does, because our awareness, our energy is placed upon it, accelerating, amplifying the signal, AKA the pain. So when we put our awareness on this tingly sensation, the mind is doing this 3 to 5 times per second. Safe, unsafe, safe, unsafe. 3 to 5 times per second, the mind is doing this just to keep you alive. So if it feels some tingly going on, and it's going to ask, is this safe? Is this not safe? It's taken away from the effectiveness, or I should say the subconscious influence on the cell structures. So the important part here is that we understand that the microcurrent, the amplitude of the microcurrent is not determining the effectiveness of the frequencies. Okay, the frequencies are going into your body on this carrier wave called microcurrent. And the fact that the system, Healy tells you if you've got conduction, doesn't it? Right? The old app would have the black or the white, right? The new app, I love it, by the way. Everybody needs to get on board with this new app, the Healy 2 app. The new app gives a little message. There's a little sine waveform that goes across the screen, and it tells you when there's not enough current flow through the body, then there is going to be a message. It says, yeah, there's frequencies flowing, but there's no conduction. And this is important because we need the information to go through the body. And it doesn't matter if you're running it from left to right, right to left, or from wrist to ankle, or, you know, that might be a little awkward, but it doesn't matter how you're running it through your body, because the frequencies are moving across the body and encountering meridians. And we have almost an infinite number of meridians within our body. Some of these meridians are only a few cells wide, but go from top to bottom throughout the entire body. And so when the frequencies cruise across these meridians, it propagates omnidirectionally through this meridian, and the information is transmitted. All this information is transmitted at the speed of light through the water in your body, intracellular water. And like I said, some of these meridians are only a few cells wide, but still containing intracellular water. And so the information is transmitted via this light signal, photonic and electron energy, through the water. So you don't have to worry about, are the frequencies getting to my brain? Are the frequencies getting to my toe? The fact is these meridians are saying, yes, they are. I had the opportunity to spend quite some time, hours and hours, with Marcus in San Francisco, doing a deep dive into meridians and into the communications channel within the body, which is our meridian structures. So understand that there are thousands and thousands, or millions of electrons within a cell, and you have 100 trillion cells within the body. So there's a lot of information being transferred around our body at the electron level. And here's where I find most people having the biggest struggle, try to understand what's going on in our with Healy, is that they're using the perception of our environment as their model for reality. And the truth is the perception of our environment is of the very big. It's the end result of awareness, of consciousness. The beginning is all simply a waveform. It's all simply energy. And the moment we observe something, we then move it from a wave to particle, from energy to matter. And the act of observation, the simple act of observation, is our filtering mechanism to be what's true. So as we start to use this understanding, use this observation skill, we can start to see that this very small, very seemingly low energy influence can make a big difference over the matter, over the very big. We have matured as a species beyond Newtonian principle. That's where we began, and we needed that. Newtonian principle is all about cause and effect. So there's an action and a result. But we've gone beyond that. And once we start to understand this consciousness and its influence on how we observe matter into reality, we've moved now into quantum understanding, which is causing an effect. So this is the basis of manifestation. This is the basis of what I'm going to say, giving our power back to good health, giving our power back to whatever you want in your life, not giving your power away to an emotion, because you now know, and I'm sorry, there's going to be a quiz at the end of this, but you now know that you can't claim ignorance on knowing that your emotions are writing the code for who you are. And where we interface with that is with Healy. And Healy is going to, because we're connected in the microcurrent going through the body, is going to influence the creation of 800,000 cells, but also the cell membrane voltage of the ones that are already there. Okay, so I talked a little bit about how the 800,000 cells per second are coming around and being part of who you are. But what about the ones that are already there, right? The ones that are already there that may be having some kind of disorder, some kind of lowering of energy. And this is what we know about the cell membrane voltage, is that at 70 microvolts is about the health, the optimal health. When it gets down lower, 50, 40, starts to become disease, disordered, right? 30, 20 is where unpredictable cell division and death starts to happen and occur. And cancer and some of those things are down there in those lower cell membrane voltages. So what Healy does is kind of like a battery charger, is when you run this energy into your body, and the program itself has a very distinct purpose, whether you're running skin or you're running lungs or you're running a chakra program, there are built-in frequencies known by studies, known by actual practical application, to enhance and encourage that particular protocol for benefit to the body. Okay, so we're going to increase cell membrane voltage by charging it up. I mean, it's pretty simple, right? If you had little battery charger cables, like you're getting a jump on your car, and you can go and hook it up to the cell, charge it up, then it'd be healthy. But one cell at a time isn't really as effective. But when you're looking at a grouping of cells, now it becomes a system, the system of an entire organ, or a system of an entire meridian, or the systems put together in multiple systems become a human. So now we're interfacing things on an entire systemic protocol. Of course, we can do it cell by cell, because it kind of actually is. But within each program, there is a resource pool of 300 to 400, sometimes even more, frequencies available for that program's purpose. And when you connect it to your body, or even if you're using the coil, by the way, folks, it doesn't matter if you're using the coil or using the wristbands, because the coil transfers that electron flow into magnetic energy, and magnetic energy waves go across the body, still reading the body and still interfacing with the body and still giving information into the body. Because what I said earlier, the microcurrent is the carrier wave for the frequencies, and frequencies are just information. And when we read an email, that's information. And when the body reads information, it reads it at the frequency level or energetic level, energy level, and then influences genetic expression. This is, like I said, epigenetics. So so that's kind of the basics. Well, I mean, that's kind of a deep dive, but if you understand any of that, then I think we can go into our day later today and take a deeper look at how emotionally we are being guided. And not only how we're being guided, but take responsibility, because it's super easy today to just get complacent and get on board with somebody's minutia, get on board with somebody's drama. I know none of you guys do. I know that, but I mean, you may know somebody out there that has influence by drama or gossip. And what happens is yeah, they are completely justified in what's going on. And we are completely justified in what's going on. Yeah, they cut me off in traffic. They need the finger, right? But the biological influence of that one decision, of that one emotion, lasts you a lifetime. And more and more as you do it habitually, it becomes a personality trait. And this personality trait determines your personal reality. Remember what I said, that consciousness observes energy into matter. And it's your consciousness, that's the filter between the quantum blueprint of you, which is perfect, by the way. I know what it looks like. It's out there in the information field, every single one of you. It's a perfect blueprint. And then our filtering mechanism, this consciousness, this pattern of thoughts, behaviors, beliefs, perceptions, personality, filters it into a reality of three-dimensional form called the body. So what kind of body do you want? What kind of life do you want? Let's observe it into reality. Let's let Healy interface with that energetic expression of those genetic codes, because without a body, we're not going to move around in life, right? This life is called the plane of demonstration. The plane of demonstration, and you're demonstrating who you are by this conscious awareness observing the body. And you go out there and you act in this plane of demonstration. Everybody out there looks at you, right? Oh my gosh, they're a rock star. They're awesome. They're great. They must have some secret. No, you have a Healy. It's not a secret. At least we don't want it to be. So let's make sure that we let everybody know. The other secret is, again, giving your power back to yourself is knowing that those emotions, if they don't belong in your future, adjust them in the moment. Thanks, Jesse.
Oh, thank you so much. That was brilliant. And I know we're all so grateful. The team has voted for Frequency School with you.
I love Frequency School. Oh my gosh. I mean, I think it's a blast to get into Frequency School. Like I said, wave theory, just knowing that, how does information get moved around? I mean, yeah, we're using air past the vocal cords right now to create a vibration. The microphone's picking it up, transmitting it infinitely, and you guys are hearing it through your ears. That's information, but that's so slow. It's so slow. The speed of sound is much slower than the speed of light, and we can influence ourselves at the speed of light. So just think about that when it comes next time that you decide, I am justified in being angry right now. Yes, you are, but your body doesn't like you for it.
Yeah, super fascinating. I love this so much. And yeah, I know that we all really appreciate this deeper dive because it is fascinating. I mean, like every bit of this is kind of just mind-blowing. Just this over and over again, that like every part of our experience here is miraculous, and it's amazing to know about it and to have these tools like Healy and have you come in and yeah, walk us through some of how and why this is happening. Super appreciate you being here.
Do we have any burning questions that we want to?
I was going to say, I don't know how much time you have. I'm sure we have questions. I know we're gonna have to have you back too.
Round 2. I love it. Yeah. So again, if we do a round 2, maybe you can scoop up some questions and we can unpack those things, and we'll schedule it to where I've got more time. I do take I'm a active stay-at-home dad as well as a Healy business person and coach. So I take my kiddos to school in the morning. It's morning for me. Some of you guys might be on the East Coast. I'm on the West Coast. School time over here.
Awesome. Yeah, we have quite a few doing the same thing, I think, right about now. Thank you for your time this morning. We will have you back. Does anyone have a burning question that's quick? I know you have to go. I have a lot of questions.
Why don't you tell me one? Give me one. Let's see if we can unpack something real quick.
Oh. Well, a lot of them you actually answered.
I have one. I'd love to know what your favorite programs are for emotional regulation.
Beautiful.
Ooh, good one. Hey, by the way, the new Soul Cycle program, this has been something that has been in the manifestation phase for a bit, and emotions on that one right there, because it's addressing exactly the emotions within the body. And remember, we all know that emotions didn't just happen today. In other words, and I use this often. I said, if you fall in love with someone, that person is the stimulus, right, for a feeling you already built over your lifetime. It's some nuances to it, but it still has a foundation within the history of your cell structures. And so it's not just this lifetime. It used to be that studies show that 3 lifetimes back, 3 generations back, there was an influence on emotional issues that came forward. And then it was 7. Now it's 14 generations back. There's an energy of emotion, and there's an energy to the genetic system. So energy lasts infinitely. So imagine later on, they'll find out it's like 25 generations back. But the point is that there is an influence from genetic coding. So these emotions are something that is, they're almost infinitely here. But I use a lot from the well-being page, the soul program, and the emotional well-being program. I love those. And if we can simultaneously, I do a lot of hacking. I didn't, thank God, I don't have a lot of biological things to deal with, but I am not really a performance junkie, but I do like what's next, is my question. As a martial arts instructor, I trained and taught. I taught for 20 years, trained for over 30, but it's what's next. My question is always what's next. And so I do 2 Healys at the same time, or I'll run 2 systems at the same time, because if I'm running microcurrent into the body, right, and that's the carrier wave for the frequency, and I'm using another Healy with the coil, and the magnetic energy is going into my body. So then what I'm doing is I'm influencing ATP production, protein synthesis. Remember what I said? ATP production by up to 500%, protein synthesis by up to 70%, and amino acid transport up to 40% increase. So I'm doing all that at the cell level, the biological, physical level. But then let's just say one of my favorite pages is the fitness page. Let's just say I'm running the muscle program while I'm doing some kind of physical effort. At the same time, if I run the coil with the strength program, now what am I doing? I'm writing information to the genetic code for muscle synthesis, but what kind? Remember what I said? What quality and kind? Strong. So the strength is magnetic. The microcurrent is muscle synthesis. Now I'm getting a twofer. So I'm building strong muscle. The genetic codes are for strong muscle. Who wouldn't want that?
Amazing. I have not tried that yet, but I'm going to.
So my point is that if you're running emotional well-being and you're running the heart chakra program via the coil, where does our love, where does our passion, where does our passion for life, our zest for life come from? Our guidance from the heart, right? That's the window for the soul. So definitely empower that heart, that 4th energy center within your body. This is where so many proper decisions will come from, as opposed to the first 3 survival centers.
Amazing. Yeah, it's also amazing. Thank you for your beautiful explanation of it all. And I know it's so nice. You talk about it so beautifully from both, that the engineer brain, like the how and the why of how it's working and what it's doing. And also, holding that as valuable without forgetting the deep value of actually our experience, and being in experiment with it and what is the actual experience. So I appreciate that very much.
I love principle. Like I said, as a martial arts instructor, you teach principles. I mean, you could teach 5,000 moves, but if you teach principles, people empower themselves. And so this is the principle of understanding. We understand how the body works at the fundamental level, at the genetic coding level. Now we can actually use our own mind, our own imagination, our own wonder, curiosity to see how can I hack that. To me, that's the sweet spot, is how to hack that.
Yeah, amazing. Well, thank you so much. Do you need to run?
I need to run. Yep, absolutely. But thank you so much for having me, and I look forward to round 2.
Yes, please.
All right. Have a wonderful day, everybody, and many blessings. I love you guys.
Thank you. Have a beautiful day.